So let's get to part 2. One more time, I'm David from ESL RPG. Welcome if you're on YouTube, and welcome if you're on the podcast. If you're not on one of those, maybe check out the other. Now, you've got all your tools for connecting with your friends, and you just need to figure out, well, okay, how do I play Dungeons and Dragons? Where do I find that? Or maybe you want to play a card game, but cards just don't go through the internet well. Or maybe you have a different card game, or a dice game, or yet another card/board game, or a card game that you bought because it was on Amazon and you had a lot of time to kill. Who knows? Well, first let's go over what you could use online with just those chat programs. Now, let's say, for example, the starter set. You don't even need audio and video for that so much, really. All you need is to type really, really fast and use one of those chat programs, which so conveniently comes with texting. That works. It is not the best, but it works. It's worked for so long, it's actually kind of scary. How about cards? Cards don't work. We'll get back to cards. How about dice? These dice actually would work. See, here's actually a great way to tell if a card game or a dice game would work for your case online. Here, just using the chat tools. If you can set up like this, and you can place your dice or your cards like this for your players to use and section them off. This for player 1, this for player 2. Maybe draw on a whiteboard or something. Player 1, player 2, player 3, and you, yourself. This actually works. This game, by the way, pretty easy. Just telling stories turn by turn, choosing one of those symbols on the dice as an idea to continue the story. If you can do something similar with card games, that also works. Let's talk one of those card games you can play using just video and chat and things like that. Now, this gets a little bit more difficult because most people like to pull their cards themselves. But give me a minute. Card game number 1. Vertels. This is a question conversation based card game. I recommend, if it sounds interesting, pick it up, give it a look. It's in different rounds, different sections. Round 1, round 2, round 3, and round 4. There are different types of questions. You choose one of those questions. Choose one of those questions, like, what is one of the most valuable lessons you have learned? Use that question as a conversation starter with the people in the chat. Okay? That's actually pretty easy. Here's another one that's pretty easy. who would win? 2 people each choose a person card. A person like Marilyn Monroe or Jacques Cousteau. They must debate why their person would win at a contest. By the way, one more person draws an event card. Let's say a ski race. Now, players 1 and 2 must talk about why Jacques Cousteau and Marilyn Monroe would win a ski race. Okay. Now that's just things that you can do with no extra setup, just your chat program from before, whether it's Discord or Skype or Google Hangouts, whatever. All right, now give me a minute and we'll get into other non-video-based things you can do. Things on the internet. Most of them browser-based. We'll start with the free tools, and then we'll talk a bit about the not free tools. Which, when we get into the not free tools, we'll also talk about this a little bit. Okay, here we are on your computer, and we need to do, well, quite frankly, we need to go over what you can do online and what is available on the computer. First up, let's talk rules. Free first, then going into stuff you have to pay for. Maybe. For what's free and available online, first, let's talk about open game content. The RPG library has a whole series of different types of content completely open for you to use. However, it's a very short series considering all the different types of games out there, but it's something you can use to make a lot of different things work, like OpenD6. That and GURPS, things like that, have been used to, for example, make the Matrix D6 game system or the Star Wars D6 game system. Now, you'll notice here, boom, icons. What we use in our superhero campaign. We actually started using the rule set from right here on the internet. You can share that with your players so they all have the same rule set you do, and you can play together based on these rules. Now, finding character sheets, okay, that might be a little bit more tricky, but Google is your friend. Let's move on. Speaking of open game content, one thing not listed here is 3.5, the older form of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, the books, of course, are official content, but the system itself is open game content, and so its rules are open and free to use. Here is where you can find that. By the way, all of these links will be in the description. Moving on. Let's talk actually getting online, something that you can show to other people. Now this is kind of half free. It includes a completely free browser-based bit of software you can use, but also things you can buy to use together with that software. That being said, it is also possible to use other VTT, virtual tabletop software together with this to play together with your friends. All right, now you can create a free account clicking on the big pink button over here saying create free account, but I've already got one, so let's show you a little bit about it. Now, you can join a game looking for a game that's open if you don't care who you play with, or if you want to have a game with just your friends, you can create a new game. All you got to do is name that game, like, let's say, test game. If you want to, you can choose a character sheet based on all these different game systems that are open and available for you to use. So for now, let's say 5e. There you go. Create game. Let's ignore that part for now. Let's get into the test. Now, when it's open, yes, especially if you're doing this the first time, it will ask you to play through a tutorial. That's something you can do. It will also try and access your camera because it can show you on the screen through your camera. We're using camera to record this video right now, so let's just skip that for now. Now you can see here the grid that you can draw on. And if you are the game master, you have a lot of things at your disposal. Let's say you want to set up a certain type of map. Now you'll notice here you've got two sections, one for premium assets, these are things you pay for, one for assets from the web. These you can just use in the map, however you wish. And that's how you can set up your map as the game master. Now, a lot of these controls are the same for players, like scrolling in and scrolling out using your mouse, or magnify and demagnify. Okay. Clicking and dragging to move around. It will snap to the grid. Let's talk about Game Master specific. There's a lot of tools you have, like you can hide areas from your players, hide certain areas, reveal certain areas where your players are. By the way, speaking of players, here we go. You can put in different tokens for your players. These are things you as the dungeon master can move around, or if you so choose, your players can move around. There are tutorials for this. And if you need it, here are yet more dice that you can roll. Okay. And you can see the roll shows up for everybody to see. And if you so choose, you can talk by typing. And your players can talk together with you. By the way, let's talk inviting players. This. You copy this link and email that to your players. That is the link to join that game. Okay? So, any player who has that link can join that game. And they can fiddle around and do stuff, which, by the way, real quick, let's check this out as a player to see how it's a bit different. Okay. Now you'll notice I can only actually see the bits that the Game Master is showing me. But I can move around and I can draw shapes there or draw freehand, like I want to go this way. Okay. And delete those shapes, and so on. Okay. I can chat, I can keep notes in a journal, I can search information for the game I am playing. Jukebox is something for the Game Master to play music with. And let's see. Zoom in, zoom out, and rolling dice. Boom. Okay. And there we are. That is a very, very basic introduction to Roll20. People who are game masters will probably understand a lot more of that. For everybody else who's not, thank you for sticking around. Let's get to non-role-playing game things. Okay? Non-role-playing game things, because we have more free non-role-playing game things before we get to the things you have to pay for. Okay. First off, all you grandparents who stuck around to watch this far, here's something you should be very comfortable with. Playing card games. Okay? Here's all you got to do. Let's say you want to play checkers, crazy eights, go fish, matchup, concentration, or remote insensitivity. That's their version of Cards Against Humanity. Do not click on this unless you are very comfortable with some very, very black, blue, and crass humor. So, knowing my grandparents, you might actually enjoy that. And if you want to play something different, you can still take a regular, standard 52 card playing deck using this. You can share this link with your players directly so that they can come and join that game. Now, very simple. Click cards to flip. Click, click. Drag cards to move. Okay, let's get all the cards back in there. That recalls them and shuffles them. Now, here is your hand. If your cards are down here, only you can see them. When those cards come out here, people can't see what it is until you flip it. Okay? You can stack cards in these rectangles. You can return cards to the deck.